Fuel importers have confirmed there'll be price hikes at the petrol pump within a week, following the weekend attack on an oil plant in Saudi Arabia. Global oil prices have jumped by 18% after the attack, which sabotaged about half of Saudi Arabia's crude processing. New Zealand retailers have suggested prices here might rise between 5 and 10 cents a litre. Amy Williams reports.
400,000 Kiwis are monitoring fuel prices through the Gatsby app, which shares the cheapest fuel prices by area. Its developer, Mike Newton, says he's expecting a flurry of activity when the hikes hit, and he was among those rushing to the pumps today.
I went to fill up about 10 a.m, so it's when most people are already at work, and the petrol station was chock with people, and there's no discounts running apart from the usual. And so that indicated to me that people are expecting a price rise in the very near future and are trying to get in now while it's still cheap.
The Commerce Commission's draft fuel market study, released last month, said drivers were paying more for fuel, partly due to the lack of an active wholesale fuel market in New Zealand. Its report says more than $10 billion worth of petrol and diesel is bought at petrol stations each year, and there are 4 companies that import fuel into the country. 3 of those, Z Energy, BP and Mobil, control over 90% of the fuel supplied. Z Energy Chief Executive Mike Bennett says whatever happens in international markets flows through to its prices here.
Our typical practice is to look at what happens on those international markets for a day or two, because sometimes you can get a move up or down that gets reversed the next day. So we typically take a couple of, as I said, 24 to 48 hours to see what's happening in markets and then determine what that means for the pump price.
In statements, both BP and Mobil say they will not speculate on future fuel prices at the pump. Gull imports fuel to Mount Maunganui, and its general manager, Dave Bodger, says it takes less than a week for international fluctuations in fuel prices to reach our shores. Mr Bodger says Singapore's market price for refined petrol and diesel feeds into the New Zealand market within a week, and the exact hike will be known later tonight.
We're not going to be moving our prices if we can avoid it this week. Look, the first indicator will be at 8:30 tonight when that Singapore market closes. But, hey, round figures, rule of thumb, every $1 a barrel that goes up in price, that's a cent per litre at the pumps in New Zealand.
Meanwhile, the Commerce Commission says it does not monitor prices in the retail fuel sector, and it is a question for each fuel company as to how it responds to changes affecting its pricing. Economist Shamabil Yaqub says the rise will add pressure in an economic slowdown and will have a huge effect on consumers.
Fuel prices are very much in the spotlight. I think the market study has really put a lot of focus on oil prices, and people are very sensitive to it. And also because it's such a regular and expensive cost for everybody. So as prices increase, we tend to see quite a lot of reaction in the way that people behave on what else they spend their money on, but also how much they drive and how cautious they are.
Mike Newton from Gatsby says consumers should shop around even after the hike, as some stations may take longer to respond. For Checkpoint, Amy Williams.